What's up, nerds? We are your hosts. I am Jake.
And I am Chad. This week we're sponsored by Ray's Energy Drinks.
We are also sponsored by Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce.
So this week we are joined by a very special guest. He is the host of the Inside the Scene Indie Arcade Wave podcast, as well as one of the guys behind the Galactic Battleground arcade game. So we're super excited to have him here.
Yeah. This week we're also going to talk about the Loki season finale, which is pretty exciting.
Oh my
I'm
goodness,
excited.
it was so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get into it. This is the All Things Nerd podcast. Nerd.
Welcome back, nerds, to the All Things Nerd podcast, your weekly dive into all things nerd. Yeah.
Yeah, Jake, how was your week?
This week went by really slow. Week. It was really slow. It was a very long, 5-day work week, but
it did kind of drag on.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, I mean, yeah, it kind of dragged on, and that's saying something because I work weekends, so I had 2 days off in the middle of the week, and it still seemed long.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was good. I mean,
yeah.
It has been raining here since, I don't know, I moved.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I love the rain. I'll take all of it. Yeah.
Well, what's fucked up is, the area that I take my dog out to, it's nice grass, open area, and there's a storm grate there. Yesterday, still, there was standing water around the storm grate because it, was still trying to drain and couldn't. And I was like, this is soggy and nasty, and I don't like it.
Well, at least it's
title.
I could have. I didn't. Damn it! I definitely could have. Shit.
Shit.
Well, fuck. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, not a whole lot has been going on. I mean, we do have our live stream coming up later this week. We'll talk about it again at the end of the episode, but this Friday, the 23rd, we have another live episode coming on. And we're approaching, this is episode 24. So 25 is next week also, which is going to be super awesome. Super excited for it. And we have some cool giveaways. We also just ordered some new merch. We're not going to tell you what it is yet. We'll probably tell you on the live stream.
Yeah.
So yeah, check that out also on your favorite streaming things, the Facebook, YouTube's, Twitch, Instagram. I think that's it. But yeah. Honestly, slow week, not a lot. So let's get into the rest of the episode. But before we do that, Jake, what do we have to do?
We got to introduce sponsor number one.
Oh, who is sponsor number one, Jake?
I thought you were doing sponsor number. I wrote it down as you doing it.
Oh shit, I am. Yeah.
I was like,
In case you guys haven't heard about one of our sponsors, it is Ray's Energy Drinks. They're pretty great, and they in no way, shape, or form affect your memory, clearly. No, it's actually a fantastic energy drink with 0 calories, 0 sugar, and there is no crash, which is incredible. So good. Go ahead and listen up, and we'll tell you a little bit about it, and then we'll be back with Joe from the Indie Arcade Wave. What's up, nerds? I wanted to take a minute and talk to you about Ray's Energy, an incredible energy drink that provides max energy with 0 crash. Ray's Energy takes a giant leap of faith with instilling a high-quality formula to bring a powerful, yet sustained, energetic experience to help you push your workouts and focus to the next level. Perfect for anyone at any time, empowered by their refresh formula technology, Ray's Energy delivers a performance-enhancing energy drink that aids in multiple different categories that include targeted focus, better recovery time, improved clean energy levels, and a boost in stamina and hydration. But most importantly, every can of Ray's Energy has absolutely 0 calories, zero sugar, and zero carbohydrates to give you a smarter and healthier option. So don't settle for an energy drink that contains more sugar and carbohydrates than you can count. Instead, head over to repsports.com. That's REPPSPORTS.com and use the promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout for 15% off your order. Or if you don't know what you want, go ahead and click the link that's in the description to get a $50 sample pack for free. All you do is you cover the cost of shipping. Again, make sure you use promo code NERDPODCAST at checkout to let them know that we sent you. All right, guys, welcome back. As you may have noticed, there's now another person joining us. Everyone, welcome Joe. He is the host of the Indie Arcade Wave podcast, as well as one of the dudes behind the Galactic Battleground arcade game. Dude, we're super stoked that you're here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be on. I've been listening for a while, and I mean, Chad came to me at first asking questions about how to start a podcast, so it's always fun to end up coming on.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. But yeah, so with that being said, I mean, Joe, who the fuck are you? Like, who are you? What do you do? Like, tell the people that listen, a little bit about yourself. Well, hang on. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that because we did pour shots for this. Before we get into it, welcome to the podcast.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right. I did not mean to cut you off like that. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. But yeah, Joe, tell the people who you are, what you're about, what you do, the essence.
Definitely. It's weird being on the other side of this. I always ask that question and I'm just like off the hook, but now I have to like actually think about it. Well, I guess I can just cover kind of the span of what I've done just in a short little kind of synopsis. Yeah. Started with a buddy and his stepdad making a video game called Galactic Battleground, which we then put into an arcade cabinet, went all over the country with that, a whole bunch of different conventions, met a ton of people, realized how cool the scene was, and then went to the Killer Queen National Tournament. For anybody that doesn't know what Killer Queen is, it's, I'm not going to say probably, I'm going to say definitely the biggest indie arcade game. Pretty much any major city you go to, you'll probably find this massive 10-player arcade cabinet that is Joust updated and with multiple different ways to win. It's a huge following, and the game is absolute blast if you ever get a chance to play it. But I was at their national tournament and just saw how cool the community was and wanted to help out with that and kind of help everybody else grow because there were other developers in the space. And when shit hit the fan and everything closed down, I just figured why not tell their stories. And that's kind of where Indie Arcade Wave came from. And we just talked to developers in the arcade space, and that has since grown just into the indie scene in general. Just any kind of indie game that I find interest in, I'm down to talk about.
Right on, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's badass. What's your favorite? If you had to choose just one like indie arcade game, like what would be your favorite one?
Well, there's definitely gonna be the bias of the one that I worked on.
Excluding your own.
So let's take it back one more step. Classic arcade game, like
Last Galaga, easy. That's a no-brainer. That's exactly why I was so interested in the Galactic Battleground idea when Dylan presented it to me at 3:30 in the morning after a concert. Was it's basically the game that I absolutely already loved, but multiplayer. So I could play against people, and there were power-ups and a little bit more depth to the game. And that was like what got me right away. Like I played one game on his MacBook and was like, okay, what do I do? Like, how can I get involved? To pick out of this scene is such a difficult thing just because all the games have their pros and their cons, and it's different when you know the people behind the game, like you know the developer personally. Yeah. I don't even think I could pick. Every game they're all so much fun. Like they all have their qualities. Like some are really fun single player, some are like really, really fun 4-player or 10-player.
10-player?
But like, I mean, Killer Queen is 10 players. It's 5 on each team.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I don't know a whole lot about this game.
I was like, he literally just said that like a couple of minutes.
It's two big ass cabinets with 5 players on each one, and I think the monitors are like 49 inches, 50. It's like in that 50 range for one cabinet. So like, I mean, it's like the TV you would have in your living room, but 2 of them side by side.
Fuck yeah,
that's so rad. So I guess then, so we kind of touched base on the throwback games that inspired you to get into this, but so since you've been doing your podcast and meeting a bunch of developers, I know you already said it's really hard to pick a favorite, but do you have one that is either in development that you can talk about, or one that is fairly new that just has you jacked, that you're just like super stoked about?
Yeah, I actually interviewed this team from Astro Crow Games. Well, there's Street Cleaner first. If anybody knows who Street Cleaner is, he's a synthwave artist. He made a game. It's on Steam. They released a Switch as well, and they just finished a cabinet. It looks awesome. I don't think they're planning on like doing a whole bunch of them. They kind of wanted to make one just to see it. But for games that are coming to arcades, I'm gonna have to say Highlight Heroes. For anybody that knows what Highlight is, it's not really something that we know of in the U.S. But it's basically, you probably played it in gym class as a kid. You've got that big spoon and you like throw the ball out of it. That's a real sport, and the ball gets thrown at like 200 miles an hour, and people don't really wear helmets while they do it. It's kind of like a wall ball, racquetball style. So they made an arcade game based around that, and Karis, who did the art, it's absolutely beautiful, like awesome pixel art. She said it was like Miami Vice kind of vibe is what they were going for. So it's like super bright colors. I haven't played it yet, but I've seen gameplay of it, and I've talked to them a lot about it, and I just I want to play it so bad. I want to get my hands on that cabinet, but they're down in Orlando, and that's really far from Minneapolis. So we gotta work something out there so that I can give it a try.
Yeah, for sure. No, that sounds awesome. So I'm thinking of like scoop ball, where it's like the plastic version of lacrosse.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I never played this game in school. I don't know.
You never played like scoop ball, where it was like it looks like a
lacrosse. Yeah, I don't know.
It's like an ice cream scoop, but it's like curved, and you basically whip like a wiffle ball around.
Never played it.
But the ball is more like a lacrosse ball in the real game.
Interesting.
I mean, you can look it up. Like when everybody's done here, if you're listening or after listening, just look up what Highlight is. Like, this game is insane. They're probably going to have like injury videos, to be honest, just because the ball's thrown so fast. But yeah, it's like the craziest thing that I've ever seen.
Dude,
crazy.
That sounds wild. Yeah, because I only know of like that game from like a wiffle ball perspective. I never knew that it was a real sport, and then also from there, like, turn that into a video game. Like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Like, that sounds rad. That sounds super fun, especially with like the bright color, like Miami Vice that you're talking about. Like, that fits the type of game that you want to play at an arcade, and it brings back a nostalgic feel.
Right, like, and it's a 4-player game, so you can play like with your friends there at the cabinet.
Oh yeah,
that's so awesome.
So this is kind of not really a gaming question, but Chad tells me that you're I specifically was like, oh, I'm gonna ask him about that. Chad said you're a big beer guy. What's your go-to?
Oof. I'm the kind of guy that will just like go into Total Wine and just like pick the one that has like a cool picture on it from like some local brewery. If I had to like narrow them down, I love Surly. Obviously, if you're from Minnesota, you love Surly.
Yeah.
But I think what I'm really, really liking right now is Bad Weather Brewing. Their Ominous it's pretty dark, pretty heavy, but it has a ton of flavor. That's definitely one of my favorites. Otherwise, like the Breckenridge Vanilla Porter is another super, super good one. Their Amber is really good too. Yeah, I mean, there's tons that I could go into.
Do you normally go for the darker beers?
I do. I do
Yeah,
like
okay.
the darker beers. Not an IPA guy.
Yeah.
Never really liked them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the porters. I like the stouts.
Oh yeah.
Those are all good.
Sweet. That was my question.
Porters are like my go-to beer.
They're so heavy though. Like in the summertime, I have a hard time with them because it's like it's rough. Or if I'm
That's
eating.
right. That's where I go more towards like an amber, like something
Yeah.
that's a little bit lighter that you can drink during the summer. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you can't really like drink a whole bunch of porters. Like you're gonna
Sure.
feel terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're gonna feel like you ate 3 meals after you've had a couple beers.
They're so heavy. But yeah, I do like a good
For
porter.
dessert, I had 3 bowls of oatmeal. But no, a porter's my go-to for beers, at least in the cold months. And then when it's warm out, I wimp out and go to either a light beer or like a light beer because it's easy to drink, or like a seltzer. I'm basic, if you will.
Man, that would have been the perfect time for me to break out one of my freezies. I bought these like True Leaf like freeze pops. They're so good. They're so good. Yeah.
Fuck. So to kind of circle back to the podcast show, I know that just about every week, you're interviewing some developer, someone working on a game, someone doing art for games across the board. To this date, what do you think has been the most rewarding and your favorite interview that you've done? Because you've worked with some awesome dudes.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of developers, a lot of arcade owners, just a lot of people in the space. It's so hard to pick one, but like one that is still really, really memorable for me has to be my interview with the Death by Audio arcade guys. They're out of New York, and Mark, who is the owner of Wonderville, they kind of all started together. And so Wonderville, just to give you guys kind of an overview before I talk about who they are and how they kind of came to be. Wonderville is an arcade that's in Brooklyn, New York, and they exclusively do indies. Like they only have indie games in there, whether they're from like the New York scene, the national scene, actually one international now that I think about it, from Videogamo Inc. out of Argentina. They've got a game in there called Dogoton, which is kind of like a pixelated Mario Party kind of vibe. With like a unique controller. They like alt controls in there.
Were those the same people from... I don't remember sorry to cut you off. I remember like we were talking, you had you had spoken with people from South America. I can't remember if it was Argentina. Was it those same guys?
Nave?
It might have been Nave.
Nave is their other game. They've made a couple games.
Okay.
But it probably was them, actually, kind of thinking back to when we spoke about that. Yeah, it's probably right about that time. But yeah, so this arcade, like I said, they have all these really unique games. And to tie back to the Death by Audio arcade part, it's just a crew of guys, game developers, people that teach classes at like New York universities about coding on Unity or Unreal or different languages. They all lived in this place called Death by Audio. And it's kind of like a shared musician living space / studio. And they were all musicians, lived together, and then they were like, "Hey, let's build an arcade cabinet." So they did it just kind of out of nowhere, and then they dropped it into this location where there were like a whole bunch of punk shows and different kind of like rock shows like that, and it went super well. And they were like, "Okay, well, maybe we'll build another one." And they built a couple of them, and then they started having people send them games that were like, "Hey, this would be cool in a cabinet." They were like, "Okay, we'll build that." And Mark said it got to the point where they had a whole bunch out on route, so they were like at different arcades. But then, like, if one of them came back, it had to go in the living room or it had to go in the walkway, and he pretty much couldn't walk out of his house at one point because they were blocking the front door, so he had to go out the back door. So him and his wife were just like, "Let's just get a spot," and they were able to throw them all in this arcade, and it's a pretty big spot now out in Brooklyn. And just talking to those guys, the knowledge they have about developing indie games, who they've met, just like it was such a cool experience to talk to them. It was one of those interviews where I got out and I was just jacked. I was like, that was so much fun to like get to know these guys. And I still keep in touch with them. I talk to Mark all the time, and he's sending me suggestions for people that I should interview in the future for games that were made, and they're just a really cool squad.
Oh, man, that sounds awesome. And also, like, just the fact that, like, that space was built out of almost necessity. Like, hey, we have all these cabinets and we don't have a place to put them. Let's just open a space. Like, that's so cool. Instead of being like, let's start an arcade. And I don't mean to, like, talk down on people that do that, because, like, who doesn't love going to an arcade? But, like, you're like, hey, I have all this stuff that's here. This is the next logical step.
Yeah, it was like past projects that just, they needed somewhere to go. So they had to move it somewhere.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
That's pretty badass. All right, so what got you into, like, I guess, as we were talking about it earlier, what got you into, like, the nerd, like, realm, whether it be a video game or a TV show or anime, comic books, and, like, what's your favorite out of?
Definitely video games, I would think. I mean, I can tie it to one moment, really. I played video games my whole life. Growing up, my dad gamed a lot. My uncles and just family would play. And I think I really, really got into it probably like 64-ish. 64, PlayStation 1, stuff like that. Then obviously PS2, Xbox. And then, like, hardcore started playing on, like, 360, which people in our age range are probably going to say the same thing. Like, 360 is one of the best consoles if you played Xbox, just because of, like, the game library, and Xbox Live was, like, that was the spot. Like, it was such a cool place to be, and all the games, like, online games, were so much fun. And looking back, what made me, like, the moment, there's, like, a specific moment where I was like, I want to work on a video game. Like, that's, like, one of the things that I want to do in my life. Like, it's on my bucket list. And that was E3, I don't even remember what year it was, but it was when Cliff Bleszinski was talking about Gears of War 2. He was talking about, like, how much he's enjoyed making the game and what the game has meant to him and how much he put into the game. And at that moment, I was like, damn, this guy makes this sound like so much fun. And I was on. So I was like, at some point in time, I'm going to find a way to work on a game.
I was going to ask you, so that answers that question. Never mind.
It fell right in my lap. But yeah, I mean, what got me into the nerd space is definitely, I mean, it's probably the same stuff as a lot of people. My dad was a big Star Wars fan, so starts there. Obviously, superhero movies, you can't not love superhero movies. Comics are always something I wanted to get into. I never really did. I mean, Chad sent me that Punisher comic, which that was dope. I'm about that. He's probably one of my favorite anti-villain. He's not really like a good guy or a bad guy. He's kind of both. But yeah, I mean, comic books were cool. And then anime is something that I got into fairly recently. I mean, obviously you watched like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon and stuff as a kid, but probably in like my mid-20s, I was like, I'm going to check some of this other stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where I probably got into that stuff. And now I've watched a ton of anime at this point.
Right on. What would be your favorite anime? I'm not a big anime dude, just throwing it out there, but like, what would you say would be like the anime to get into if you're not?
Oh, to get into if you're not? My answers are going to be completely different.
Well, start there and then
I'll start with the animes to get into.
Yeah.
It kind of depends on like if you want to watch really long animes or like shorter ones. Netflix has a ton of really good originals. Not gonna lie, like Akame ga Kill is super good. Seven Deadly Sins is good. These are probably like all the cliche ones that everybody watches.
I don't.
Well, obviously not you, Chad, but
I just haven't gotten into it. But yeah,
those are both really good.
Have you watched any of Castlevania on Netflix?
Yeah, I watched. I think what is it? They're on the 4th season now, right?
I think 4 now. Yeah.
I think I watched the first 3, and then I haven't watched the newest season. And it was so long ago, I have to like start over to remember what was happening. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the Netflix originals are good. Like if you want to just get into anime and you don't really know where to start, like that's a good place. And then you're obviously going to come across like One Piece, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto. Like that's the stuff that like you'll end up watching if you enjoy it. As for favorite animes, I like weird stuff like for anime, like non-conventional stuff that like most people wouldn't like. Devilman Crybaby is like one of the weirdest animes that I've watched, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really interesting way to tell the story. It's short. It's only like one season, so it's like 12 episodes maybe. But that one was fucking weird. Like that's the only way I can describe it. Is it was very weird. There's one. It's like Don't Pick Up Girls in a Dungeon or something. That was a Netflix one that I really liked. Sword Art Online is super good too. The prequels weren't nearly as good as the first one. There's one I just watched recently, but I can't think of it. Dorohedoro. That one was really good too. It's really strange. Again, like the main character is weird. It's wizards and people that are like living in the slums. It's weird to describe, but the story arc on that one was really cool, and the character development was pretty sweet. But yeah, I mean, I've watched a whole bunch at this point. Like I said, I've only been watching it for a couple of years, and it's just like once you jump down that rabbit hole, it's just like comic books and superhero movies. Like you can't just watch Iron Man. Like you have to watch the whole Marvel universe. Like you watch one, and then you're like, oh, I wonder what happened with this guy and how they're attached with the Avengers. And
hell yeah,
you just jump down that rabbit hole.
So speaking on that then, since you tied it back into, comic books and superheroes, who is your favorite superhero? Doesn't have to be someone that's like encountered like the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the DC Universe, just end all be all. If you had to pick one superhero that you would want to be around forever, who would it be?
This is one that you would have more knowledge on than I would, because I know that there were a whole bunch of versions of this superhero. But I am kind of biased just because of like in high school I played Ultimate Frisbee and we were the Green Lanterns, so it's got to be Green Lantern, just because like I know a good bit about him, and like the I don't even know what you would call it, in Brightest Day and Darkest Night, like I can recite the whole thing. That was like one of our chants. So I mean, he's definitely up there. Everybody hates on the movie with Ryan Reynolds. It wasn't good, but like I still enjoyed it just because of where I was in my life at that time. Like I was playing for the Lanterns when that happened. But yeah, I'd probably think he's my favorite, just because like he's got the ring and it's all about willpower and like being good at your core, like in your heart. And then like you can create anything. Like you can literally make anything with that ring. Like that's pretty dope.
Yeah. That's Green Lanterns I feel like is very underrated. He's actually pretty badass in the comics. And there's like way more versions of Green Lantern than other superheroes. He's one you can see yourself being. Like it's plausible that you could be a Lantern. Like you could be in the Lantern Corps because they're from everywhere. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And they were one of the first comics back in like I don't even know when that shit came out, but they were one of the first like comic book series to introduce a gay character. That's
interesting.
Yeah. What about you, Chad? Who's your favorite?
Well, I mean, it's gonna sound super cliche, but my go-to favorite superhero character of all time is Spider-Man. I absolutely love Spider-Man. Not just the with great power comes great responsibility, but also like he's out there like busting his ass to like save people that he cares about, people he doesn't know. Does everything that he can to like balance work, life, being a hero, and then he opens his fridge and it's like there's a couple of packets of ketchup and like 6-day-old
leftover pizza.
Yeah, like he's just.
So what you're saying is I'm Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, I guess. you know, but it depends on, do you have great power and responsibility?
No, I just meant the ketchup packets and leftover pizza.
That's also fair.
Oh yeah. I had another question for you, but you kind of answered it already. I was gonna ask you what your intro level like nerd thing that you would suggest, but you kind of already um answered that question a little bit with the anime stuff and where to find it. So unless Chad has anything else to add, then I think we could probably jump into like our second sponsor and move on.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I don't know. Is there? Well, first off, I mean, we'll have you say it again at the end of the episode, but before we move on, where can people find you, Joe? Because you're gonna hang out with us for the next part, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Cool. Where can people find you online?
It's pretty much Indie Arcade Wave everywhere. TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Did I say Facebook? Instagram, Twitter. It's Indie Arcade Wave anywhere. So if you search Indie Arcade Wave and you don't find it on there, then I'm not on there.
Okay.
Right on. Good answer.
Perfect.
That being said, we'll jump into sponsor two. Crybaby Craig's Hot Sauce. It's a pickled habanero garlic hot sauce that goes on practically anything. Listen up.
Hey, you nerds. Do you love spice? Supporting small businesses? What about enhancing the flavor of your favorite foods? If you said yes to any of those, our good friends over at Crybaby Craig's have the perfect solution for you. Crybaby Craig's is a pickled habanero and garlic hot sauce that goes perfectly with your favorite foods, adding the perfect amount of spice and enhancing the flavor of everything it touches. Started in Minneapolis by Craig back in 2012, Crybaby Craig's has become a Minneapolis and Minnesota staple in the sauce world. So head over to crybabycraigs.com and order yours today.
All right, guys. We are going to move away from the gaming world and start talking about Loki, the season finale of Loki on Disney Plus. What do you guys think?
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
What about you, Joe?
I liked it. I was a little confused. I mean, I've seen all the Marvel movies. Started watching the Black Widow one the other day and fell asleep because I just eaten a ton of food. But I did like it. Food.
Yeah.
I did really enjoy this last episode, but I was a bit confused at a few parts, primarily in the end.
Okay. Before we answer any questions or anything like that, spoiler alert, we're going to talk about this entire episode if you haven't seen it. Shut it off, come back later after you watched it.
Yeah.
But what were you confused about, Joe?
I don't know, just who the one that remains is. I'm sure you guys have a good idea as to who that is. I feel like I have a decent idea too. I don't really know anything about his story though. So he'll be a new character for me. But yeah, it was just, and then at the end, like, nobody remembers anything. So like,
Okay.
what happened there?
Okay. So, the guy his name is Jonathan Majors in real life. He is confirmed to play Kang the Conqueror as the main villain in Ant-Man 3. So that was a version of Kang the Conqueror, but that was like the nicest version of Kang the Conqueror. So even though he did bad shit because he killed like a ton of people to do what he's doing. That's his, as he says in the show, is like, I've lived this timeline over and over again, and this is the best way to do it.
Yeah,
he's trying to be a good guy.
And if you think I'm evil, wait till you meet the variants of me. You're like, this dude's fucking evil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nightmare. But
yeah. He even says even Loki says at the end of the episode, when he's talking to Mobius before he realizes that Mobius doesn't know who he is, he's like, this guy, he's terrifying and he knows everything. And like, that's the pussycat version of Kang. you know.
Yeah.
And if Loki's scared of him, that's bad.
Yeah. Even though in this show, He Who Remains,
Yeah.
they kind of put a new spin on that character because
Mhm.
in the comics, it's basically the one TVA agent
Yeah.
that survived all of time and then used the sacred timeline to recreate the TVA in some really nonsensical time loop.
Yeah.
But in this case, He Who Remains is just a variant of Kang the Conqueror, who is a little less, I say less, genocidal and
Yeah.
less dictatorial.
Yeah.
But he's still totally okay with being a dictator and, killing everybody.
Yeah.
So he's still very much genocidal and a dictator.
I love that he says that too. He's like, "Hey, we're all villains here."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really solid line, just because
Yeah.
it does kind of sum up who they all are. They're like, I mean, it's kind of the same way I was talking about the Punisher. Like, he's not a good guy, but he's not a bad guy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's kind of just like keeping order,
Mhm.
like according to what he thinks is right.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a, we've talked about this before. Is like that's in my personal opinion. I think that a good villain thinks they're the good guy in
Yeah,
most
right.
situations. Yeah.
Yeah. It also drives a relatable aspect to a villain when you can be like, you're kind
I
of
get it.
terrible, but like,
I get it.
I get
You're
it.
relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. But what was really cool is like this variant of Kang, as we're going through the episode, he straight up says, "I've been called many things." And he's like, "A conqueror." And he like says it all like boastfully.
Yep.
It's like because it's Kang the Conqueror is like his comic name.
Yeah.
Even though this is just like a variant of him, but yeah. Which was super cool. What did you think when Sylvie and Loki finally
Locally.
when they finally shared a kiss?
I mean, I saw it coming. It's got to happen.
But I mean,
But
like,
you didn't think it was weird that like they are each other. That is Loki.
So I have to ask, like, because they're the same person, right? Like, is that incest or is that masturbation?
Masturbation, hands down.
Yeah, I'd probably lean that side. Oh, I mean, it's a different person. It's still a different person. It's just a different timeline,
like,
so it's still a different entity.
But like, they're the same person, so they share DNA. So like, would that not be more?
But clearly
incest?
not that much if one's a female. Like,
yeah, that's a good.
So
point.
like 50%. Can you masturbate with only 50% of yourself?
At least the X chromosome.
I'm so sorry, Mom.
So, like, what would their kids be like then?
They'd probably have
I don't know. I don't think that should happen.
Half the fingers, half the teeth, and maybe like an antler and a tail.
Okay.
And just in the birthing room, you just hear "Sweet Home Alabama." No. Okay.
What is it?
Roll Tide.
Is it Harold and Kumar too, where the like deformed kid is in the basement?
Is that Guantanamo?
Yeah,
That's the second one, right? Yeah.
She's like petting his face.
The Goonies, baby. They just have fucking Sloth as a child. Sloth, love, chunk.
I thought there was a couple of cool things that happened. One of the big ones for me was Mobius and Ravana's interaction, and he basically tells her, "Now that we know your secret," and he holds up the pen, which I said like 2 or 3 episodes ago. I was like, I feel like that pen means something, and then they show that A15 is
B15, brah.
Is it what?
B15.
B15? Oh,
yeah.
Whatever. B15
stop sucking.
was
just do better.
Back at you stop sucking. It's title is sex tape.
Be a really boring sex tape.
But she's back there, and you get to see that Ravana, her version of herself before she was the judge or whatever you want to call her.
Yeah, her sacred timeline version of herself is she's a principal at a high school. But what I thought was cool, where I don't know if you guys noticed this, was It's a high school in Ohio, which
Ohio.
I mean, I can speak from experience. But no. But so the high school's mascot is the Tigers, and there's a thing. There's like a poster on the wall for like the homecoming for the Tigers, but Midtown Science in New York, which is where Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, goes to high school, is the Midtown Science Tigers, and the first reboot of Spider-Man in the MCU was for Homecoming. I just thought it was a fun nod. I don't think it doesn't mean anything.
No, they just
and if
like
it does,
do that shit.
that's a wild stretch. Like it should not mean anything, but I just thought it was kind of fun. But then we get Jonathan Majors eating an apple as he's talking to like Sylvie and Loki, which I thought was wild.
Adam and Eve reference.
It was a golden apple, yeah.
Yeah. You know, he's just sitting there like,
or whatever it
and
is.
like tempting them. Like, do you want this? Do you want this?
You guys take over. Yeah. And then, of course, in the end of that, Sylvie casts Loki out, which was kind of also...
Yeah, it also kind of ties back to like episode 1.
Eden, if we're going biblical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good story.
Yeah, it's cool.
But like in episode 1, you know, you also, when Mobius is talking to the child at like that church, and is like, who did it? And they point at like the picture of the devil on the wall. I just thought it was a neat little tie back, because, you know, it's like, hey, like the Adam and Eve, the temptation gets cast out. She chooses to take the apple, metaphorically, and he gets cast out for it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she fucking kills Kang.
Just cold, right in the chest.
And the best part about it is, like, he knows, she's like, aren't you going to beg for your life? And he's like, I could. And then she stabs him.
He's been waiting for it.
Yeah.
And he just winks at her and goes, I'll see you soon.
Because he knows that by her killing him, that like it's just gonna branch the multiverse.
It's all gonna happen again.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
In some variation, that's gonna happen, but also like he knows, because he was there for the multiverse war, and he originally defeated, you know, Kang the Conqueror, or himself,
by weaponizing Eliath to it's cool.
Yeah.
This is a cool episode. I really enjoyed that episode. But then Loki's obviously cast out, and he goes looking for Mobius. He finally finds him, and he just starts telling Mobius, like, all the shit. We can't stop it. I met this guy. He's terrifying. He knows everything. And Mobius is just like, the fuck are you?
Who are you? And that was one of the things that you said confuse you, right, Joe?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of hints in in that scene where he's like running from the prison room that he was in, but as he's like running past the bookcases, which we have seen him walk past before in earlier episodes, but like across the aisle or across like the building, there's like numbered
the letters,
and they were
like sections,
different,
they're different,
but at the end of the season finale, they were completely different, which kind of leads to think that when Sylvie cast him out, she didn't cast him back to their main timeline that they had just come from. She literally sent him to an alternate timeline of the TVA.
And
that had already branched or was branching.
Well, and I also wonder if Kang did that on purpose, because before he said that he knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. And you see him before he takes his temp pad off, he does something to it like this, and then he takes it off and sets it on the table. And then the first thing that she does is pick it up and push Loki through. And then that's where Loki ends up. So I wonder if he set that up. You know what I mean?
I did not notice that, but I bet that's what happened.
And he even says something kind of devious, like while he's doing it, and then he sets it on the table and like rests his like hand on his shoulder and like looks at them or whatever, and then
He like
That's-
sets it there like to entice them to take it, like one of them to
exactly,
take it.
yeah, because he knew she was gonna take it. I think he knew that
After,
was.
it
Gonna
was like
happen.
right after he said that she can't trust anyone.
Yep. Yeah. So I
So
wonder.
she had an exit plan.
So I think he set the temp pad to send Loki to that different timeline or whatever.
Oh man, I
Yeah.
did not catch that. Oh,
The show is wild. There's probably so much shit that I missed. I need to watch it again, like, and just fucking like pay attention to every little thing. I definitely should have done it before we started talking about this today, but
right.
there's probably way more in there that I didn't catch. I feel like there's something in when they first get there to the, and I'm just babbling now, sorry, but there's like the crushed
Should be.
statue on the floor, but they show like a face on it, and I was like, I feel like there's something there.
Well, there were 4 statues, but only 3 were standing.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's something there. What, Chad? You were shaking
No,
your head.
I missed that. Now I just
Oh.
feel dumb. Like, I did not catch that.
Yeah.
Man. What I thought was wild, this was before the episode aired. So, like, Tara Strong, the actress that does the voice of Miss Minutes, like the all-powerful
Little clock
clock cartoon, she, like, on her social media, like, posted, like, a promotional video, like, talking about the upcoming episode, and I was like, why are they having you do this? Because like you're not that big of a character, like you're just kind of like something. And then this episode I was like, holy shit, she's definitely in.
Yeah.
On
She
it.
knows everything.
Yeah. And she's evil.
And she
She's
and she keeps stuff from other people because like when
Ravonna
when
doesn't
she
know
left the
the
He
full
Who
scheme of
Remains
things either.
Yeah, when she left Kang's palace or He Who Remains' palace and goes back to the TVA, she's like, "Oh, I had other stuff to do. I'm so sorry. It took me so long." Like,
yeah,
like she's completely fucking sentient and just kind of a piece of shit.
And she didn't give her the right files that she asked for. She was like, "These are what you need.
Yep.
Like these are the ones that you should look at. You'll need these in the future, but you don't need the ones you asked for."
Yep. I love that.
Which I think is setting up the Kang and Ravonna
Oh, for sure.
love arc, because in the comics they become lovers.
Yeah.
But as of now, she has no idea who it is. We both thought that for a while that she did.
And that she was working for him.
Well, she said that she was going to find free will before she went through the portal too, and he is free will.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
he's
the only one
has
with
an
free will.
Right.
Yeah.
I think she has an idea, but I don't think she's ever actually like met him. She just kind of like blindly followed, you know?
Yeah. Also, kind of a fun, just dumb fact. The the timekeepers. That was the person who did the voice for all of them was Jonathan Majors.
Was it really?
Yeah,
That is a fun fact.
because he's the one who
And
made
dumb.
them. So, yeah,
Just kidding.
Makes sense. Hey, fuck you.
That is wild. I had no idea though.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then obviously, end of the episode, Loki's in the middle of talking to Mobius. Mobius doesn't realize who he is. And then fucking Loki just goes fucking pale in the face and looks up at something. What was it?
A statue of a more accurate Kang the Conqueror. Like still doesn't have
but
the
face.
helmet, doesn't have the
costume
face
from
or the
neck
helmet.
down. Yeah.
But like the actual costume was like an etched in stone version of Kang the Conqueror. Which
Badass.
also terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Like fuck.
Yeah. It's gonna be sweet. I'm excited. I imagine we won't get. Spoiler: they did announce at the end of it that Loki will be back in season 2.
Oh, I can't
But they
fucking wait.
also didn't say anything until the season ended that Loki is confirmed to be in Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. So I imagine
Oh, yeah.
season 2 won't be out until after that movie.
I would assume so.
We got a ways to wait, unfortunately. But yeah, this has been my favorite TV show so far that the Marvel Disney Plus shows have put out.
Yeah. And Joe, I know that you mentioned, that there were some things that confuse you. Did we help unconfuse
Yeah, I mean
them?
that was it. I mean, we got to kind of discuss it, and it did kind of bring a few things to light. And there were things I missed. I mean, like you said, like I noticed all of like the endings on all of the shelves. Like they didn't look the same to me, but I hadn't watched the recent ones for like 2 weeks now, so I didn't like remember what that looked like in the beginning. But it was like so clearly laid out in front of you, like they wanted you to focus on that. Like it was like in neon letters, like in front of these books. So clearly there was something there, but
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the original ones were.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh, it's gonna be so good. There's so much little detail in there that I don't pick up on all the time, and bums me out when I read it somewhere else. I'm like, fuck, I should have known that.
Right? Oh, it's wild. So then also, Joe, I mean, like, now that we've kind of helped, answer a couple of those questions, what do you want to see happen? What do you think is going to happen? And are you excited for season 2?
I'm definitely excited for season 2. I mean, like Jake said, this is probably my favorite of the Marvel shows. I mean, I did really like WandaVision. But that clearly kind of like came to a head. It doesn't, at least that I know, it's not going anywhere from there. But it was a nice kind of backstory to fill in for them a little bit. But yeah, I think season 2 is gonna be pretty cool. Just at the end, after the sacred timeline like split off and you saw all the divergence, it was just like so many things could happen. And like being someone who hasn't read the comics, like not knowing, like literally anything could happen. Obviously, I want to see Kang. Like he seems like a pretty cool character. If that's like the mild version of him, like he's probably going to be pretty wild, pretty messed up in the head, pretty genocidal, stuff like that. And I mean, this show did really like give me a new appreciation for Loki. He was always a character I really liked in the series. Yeah. I mean, with me liking Punisher and stuff like that, I kind of like drew towards Loki. Everybody else was like so goody. He was more of a fun character to follow, and it was cool to see him and like Sylvie grow together. But I'm just curious as to like how that's gonna, like, is she gonna take over? Is that what's gonna happen? She's gonna like just let chaos run? Is she gonna try and do something? Are they gonna like come back together and like kill Kang, and she's finally gonna trust somebody? Like what? Like, anything could happen.
I don't think season 2 is gonna have anything to do with Kang. I think Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness is gonna probably wrap that up. In my personal opinion, I don't know. I also have a feeling Kang could be the big bad. I feel like he could be like, because in the comics he's a huge bad guy. He's not like a little bad guy, so he could be the new Thanos for the Phase 4.
I was gonna say, like, in terms of like Thanos being like a big villain, like where does he compare? Is he like comparable to like the size?
He's huge.
Oh,
yeah.
In the comics, Kang is, I would say, worse.
Yeah.
Thanos may have done more damage to like singular timelines, but Kang has a broader scale. And
Thanos' thing was all about bringing balance to the Force. Just kidding. Balance. He wanted balance. If like a planet was struggling to survive, he would wipe out half the population so that the planet could survive. As where Kang the Conqueror just wants to conquer everything. He doesn't give a fuck about who lives or dies. He just wants to fucking fuck shit up. Yeah.
He's kind of like Thanos with even less of a moral compass.
Yeah.
Which is pretty dismal already.
Yeah, Thanos did not have much of a moral compass. He just thought he was doing it right.
That's all.
And
he just saw too much in certain areas and just wanted it to level out and be like self-sustaining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's wild. So Kang's a big bad. I would like to see him actually probably be like the main villain in Phase 4, honestly.
Well, I'm sure he's going to be the main villain at least throughout Phase 4. I would like to kind of like how Thanos kind of like was looming, for multiple phases.
Yeah.
I like
build it up. Yeah.
I don't want to say I want to have like a Infinity War straight to Endgame, but like I would like to see a villain defeat the MCU and kind of like linger as they try and like
rebuild.
Get back. Not just like hey, this is we can't release a 6-hour movie, so we're going to cut it in half.
That could very well happen too, because we got a lot of new characters being introduced right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? We also know that
Kevin Feige does. That's about it.
I was like, he likes to fuck with our heads too, because
at least this time he
sure
gave us
wasn't
the villain that we thought it was going to be.
yeah, but like in a different version of the
It was better than being like, hey, look, there's Mephisto. Agatha all along.
Why do you call him Mephisto?
Mephisto.
His name is Mephisto. You just have like a weird like kink or something where you just want to get fisted or what?
No, bro. Mephisto.
Yeah, but it's Mephisto.
The ist creates the ist sound.
Whatever.
Depends on the language.
Yeah, you call it
language of origin.
Yeah, you call it fisting
English
all you want, but
because it was developed by Stanley and Mike Ditka, not Ditka, Steve Ditko. I'm just gonna. Okay.
Bye, Chad.
Goodbye.
Jesus. I think that's all we had about Loki, right?
I think so. Unless Joe, was there any closing thoughts? Any other questions? Or anything that like you think needs to be brought up?
I think we covered everything I noticed. You guys obviously have a little more knowledge on the subject than I do, and I think we recapped the episode pretty well. So that's all. That's really all I got.
Alrighty. Well then, let's wrap this up, guys, and then we'll go ahead and close out this episode.
Right. So before we do, we just have a few things we want to touch base with you guys about.
Yeah, so this is episode 24. So next week is our 25th episode, which we're super stoked about because we never thought that we would get this far. But you guys keep listening, which is awesome. So on the day that this airs, so on Wednesday, I think it's the 21st, check out our social media pages. We're going to be posting, we're going to be doing a giveaway for our 25th episode. So check that out. Find out a way how to win some awesome stuff. And then from there, we also have our next live stream episode this Friday on the 23rd. I think we're going to start it at like 6:30 Central. Central Time. We're going to be doing some giveaways, some Q&A.
We also got some new stuff that we got, new merch.
Some new merch, but we'll announce that on Friday, as well as our Patreon page. So you can go ahead and find us there. It's just patreon.com/allthingsnerdpodcast. But also, most importantly, we want to thank Joe for being a part of this episode. I know we've been talking about this for weeks, and I'm glad that we finally got an opportunity to do this. It's been a lot of fun. I hope everyone gets a chance to check you out. With that being said, Joe, how can people find you online?
Again, like I said before, just basically Indie Arcade Wave anywhere. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok are the main ones. I do have a Patreon launched as well if you guys want to support us there. We've got new merch coming. We just got vinyls. We got stickers. There's a whole bunch of other stuff in the works as well. And then any of the games. I mean, you can find them all on our stuff. Killer Queen, Switch and Shoot, Galactic Battleground. I'm gonna forget some. I'm gonna feel so bad. Armed and Gelatinous, Death Ball, Cosmotrons, Black Emperor, and soon to be Highlight Heroes.
Awesome, man.
Yeah.
So with that being said, guys, I mean, we love you so much. Thank you for tuning in week after week. We could not thank you enough for being a part of this community. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in the future. And Joe, why don't you go ahead and close us out?
This has been the All Things Nerd Podcast.